everyone, today I'm here to share with you some of my favorite audiobooks. I just want to let you know this video is kindly sponsored by Scribd. If you don't know what Scribd is, I've been hearing a lot about it myself over the past year here on BookTube. Amazing service that you can use either the website or it actually has an app. It has an amazing selection of ebooks and audiobooks. Scribd is kind of comparable to Audible, but the awesome thing about Scribd is that it is only $8.99 a month, and with that $8.99 a month, you get unlimited ebooks and audiobooks. So I think that is a really good price. I'm actually a member of Scribd and I do use it and I would recommend it. So I think that's a great price. You're getting really your bang for your buck here, so I would highly recommend checking them out. There's also a free 30-day trial for when you first sign up for Scribd. You gotta try it before you buy it, you know, which I always recommend doing. What I do a lot of times with apps, particularly that cost money. There'll be a link down below in my info box for you to sign up for your free 30-day trial, which I highly recommend you do, just see if you like it or not. It's always a good thing to test it out before you buy it. Amazing service that I have been using and I will continue to use because the price is amazing and ton of audiobooks and ebook selection, and like I said, with the price and the unlimited factor, you really can't beat it, so I am a huge fan of it. Like I said, down below is for your free 30-day trial, but it also is a link to my personal favorite audiobook of all time, which I'll talk about more in detail, but for that it's gotta be I've Got Your Number by Sophie Kinsella. I'm actually re-listening to this because I loved it so much the first time I listened to it years and years ago, and I've thought about it. I thought about listening to it again this past like 4 months, and then Scribd reached out to me and I was like, this is the perfect time to re-listen to it again. So if you want to join along with me this month and listen to I've Got Your Number by Sophie Kinsella, please do. It's an amazing, hilarious book, which I'll talk about more, but like I said, the link down below for the 30-day trial will link to this book, and it's my favorite audiobook to date, and it always will be, I feel like. So be sure to check out Scribd. Like I said, the link is below, and with more information, I'll link their website as well. And so again, thank you so much to Scribd for sponsoring this video. Now let's get to talking about some of my favorite audiobooks of all time. So of course, you already know my favorite audiobook of all time is Sophie Kinsella. If you've been on my channel for a while, you know that I really love Sophie Kinsella. She is a British chick lit author, and I love her for the fact of her audiobooks. I rave and rave and will continue to rave about her audiobooks. I always listen to her books. I never physically read them, and I highly recommend you do the same because the audiobooks are just hilarious because she writes really funny books. So this one, I've Got Your Number, is all about this girl that loses her engagement ring, and of course hijinks and hilarity ensues from there. It's a hilarious book. They're always romantic. This is my favorite of her books and will continue probably to be so, but the audiobook for this one is just hilarious. So please listen along with me because I just started it again and I'm just like, oh, I remembered why I love you so much. If you're interested, I have done a whole Sophie Kinsella video, which I'll link right here if you're interested. Another one that I love on audio by her is My Not So Perfect Life. I also love 20s Girls. Seriously, any one of her audiobooks will do. She does have her latest one, Surprise Me, which I did listen to audio and I did like it. It's just not one of my favorite books by her, but seriously, if you're just looking for a funny, lighthearted, romantic book, I would highly recommend listening to any Sophie Kinsella books. Like, perfect for a road trip, perfect for your commute, perfect for like anything. They are by far my favorite audiobooks of all time. I know there's a ton of people that listen to audiobooks consistently, like all the time. I'm a type of person where when I listen to audiobooks, I listen to a ton of them and then I kind of don't listen to them. Right now, I'm kind of just getting back to them after a few months of not listening to them, if that makes any sense. So, super long list of all of my favorite audiobooks. This is going to kind of be short and sweet. I listen to audiobooks when I can, but I have a kid and, you know, more times than not, I have to listen to kid music in the car, and that's really the only time I have to listen to audiobooks is in the car. What I'm recommending to you guys, because I haven't listened to a ton of them, are truly my favorites that I would hands down recommend time and time again. So just know that I wouldn't classify myself as an audiobook novice, but I wouldn't classify myself as an audiobook like pro. I put myself somewhere right in the middle of that, just so we know, because I know there's a ton of YouTubers that listen to tons and tons and tons of audiobooks and I think that's amazing. I'm just kind of not there quite yet. So some of my other favorite audiobooks to listen to is Harry Potter series. I have listened now to every single Harry Potter book on audio and I highly recommend it. If you're a big fan like myself and you've read the books countless times and you're looking for a new way to kind of fall back in love with the series or just, you know, kind of revisit it time and time again, audiobooks are amazing. Yes, you already know the plot, you've listened to it, you've read it 50,000 times, you've seen the movies all the time, but listening to it is a new experience, believe you me. Like, even while listening to them, I would be like, oh no, what are we gonna do? And have all these situations. But I'm like, you already know what's gonna happen because you've read this book 50,000 times. But just listening to them offers a new perspective on Harry Potter, and I highly recommend listening to them. I listened to the ones narrated by Jim Dale. I think he's great. He does voices for every single character. Some of the characters aren't as good as for the voices, but overall, I think the audiobooks for this series is amazing, and you can't go wrong. If you're like, I don't know what audiobook to listen to, I'm in a slump, I can't find an audiobook, trust me, revisit a Harry Potter book and you will fall in love. I also think it's a great way if you're wanting to get into Harry Potter, if you're maybe older and you're still wanting to check out Harry Potter but don't have time to physically read them, or just maybe not interested in that avenue. I think the audiobooks for Harry Potter would be great for a first-time reader, for a reader that's read them countless times, for just any reader, the audiobooks are amazing. Some other audiobooks I've listened to that are kind of random, honestly, I've just picked them out over the years. One that I love as an audiobook that I don't think a lot of people talk about as an audiobook is The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. It's my favorite book by her, and it's one of my favorite audiobooks. I loved this book so much on audio. In this book we follow two people. In the audio version we have two narrators as well, which I think is always a great element to bring when you have different characters and you have different people leading the book, so you have different narrators, and the book is just amazing. If you don't know what this book is about, it's a YA contemporary about Natasha and Daniel who pretty much fall in love in one day. The only problem is Natasha's family is actually getting deported by the next day, so of course you can figure out what's happening from there. It's a very romantic but also very heartbreaking story. The audiobook is phenomenal, believe you me. If you want to check out this book, I highly recommend listening to the audio version. Another YA series that I unfortunately didn't listen to the entirety of it on audio, but I listened to the last one and it was amazing, and I kind of am beating myself up for the fact I didn't listen to the first two, is the Illuminae series. This series is one of my favorite series by far. YA sci-fi series. It's in a multimedia one at that. This one's told in like emails, dossiers, text messages, things like that. Amazing immersive book, but on audio it's even more immersive, which I know you're like, this is gonna probably take away from the physical book because you have so many things going on in the book. How would the audiobook be better? I don't know, it just does. So I unfortunately did not listen to the first two in this series on audio, Illuminae and Gemini. I did listen to Obsidio on audio, the last book, and it was phenomenal. And I highly recommend, if you have time, I know it's kind of pushing it, if you could listen to it and read along with it physically, that is the best way to go. The audiobooks have tons of narrators. It's got like up to 30 because you have so many different people, and it's amazing. Like you'll have actually, you can hear the pen scratching on the paper when somebody's writing a thing. When they have battles in space like this, you'll actually hear different people yell like, negative, this is vertigo, commencing attack, and all of these different things. It's just so immersive, and I highly recommend you listen to them on audio. Like I'm thinking about going back and just listening to the first two because I didn't the first time around, which I'm so mad at myself. So if you're really hesitant on this series, the audiobooks are just awesome. And I know a ton of people say that, and I fully stand behind them. I was floored, honestly, by how much I enjoyed the audiobooks. Like, so worth it. Another great series to listen to on audio is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I am still kind of in the middle of listening to the series. It's one of my favorite series of all time. It is the perfect fall read. I know we're smack dab in the middle of summer. I'm like, read this in fall. But seriously, around Halloween time, pick this book up. Audiobook for this series is just amazing. It's kind of got that creepy, eerie vibe because that's the series. This series is all about these boys called the Raven Boys who are on the search for this dead king, and it's just amazing. Fantasy series. I would say it's not even fantasy. It's kind of like supernatural. It's got a lot of different elements going on with it, but the audiobooks, like I said, are amazing. I'm still trekking my way through them. I've also listened to a couple thrillers on audiobook, which I think are great. I think thriller books are great in general, but listening to them on audio has an extra level of suspense because you get to hear the narrator really be tense in situations and really be scared in situations. The only thriller I've listened to, I've only listened to one, is A Stranger in the House by Sherry De La Pena, and I really enjoyed it. But I know there's tons of thrillers out there, and I'm thinking about listening to more of them. I haven't listened to more of them because I'm always kind of scared to listen to them because, like I said, the narrator adds an extra intense factor, but I think picking up any thriller would be amazing. But A Stranger in the House, I listened to it. I did enjoy it. The ending really annoyed me, but the overall plot of it was very intriguing. It's about this woman that goes missing and her husband's trying to figure out, and then of course he learns maybe she's not who she says she is, and you know, you can guess what happens from there. Well, can you? No, the ending you will not guess it, and it will either, you'll be very impressed by the ending or you'll be very upset. I was very upset. Another kind of controversial audiobook that I enjoyed is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. This book, you know, got really big a couple years ago when Netflix made it a series, and I decided to listen to it. And I will say, if you're interested in reading the book, I would highly recommend checking out the audiobook because it also, again, has dual narrators. So in this whole book, it's about a girl that has committed suicide, and she leaves 13 tapes to people, and they're the reasons why she's committed suicide. And we follow our main character, Clay, and he's listening to the tapes. And what's amazing about the audiobooks is that whenever Clay is listening to a tape, it starts off like a tape, like you hear somebody putting the tape in and clicking it, and then Hannah's voice takes over when she's talking through the tape. So I thought the audiobook was amazing for that factor alone. It's not one of the best like books ever because it's got a lot of controversy, you know, things like that, but I did enjoy it as solely as an audiobook, so I would recommend it for that matter. Another audiobook that I picked up on a whim a couple years ago, or maybe it was last year, and I fell in love with, and that is Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. I loved this book. Very hard-hitting book, and it's hard to read, I'm not gonna lie to you, but the audiobook was done so phenomenally well. Again, we have multiple narrators in this one as well. As you can see, I'm a big fan of having more than one narrator. I don't know why. I think it just adds an extra element to audiobooks. Audiobooks are totally personal preference, clearly, because every person's gonna have different taste, obviously, but I love audiobooks that have dual narrators. It's just a fact for me. It's all about a woman named Ruth Jefferson, who is an African-American labor and delivery nurse, and she has to help out some of her patients that are actually white supremacists, and they don't want her to touch their baby at all and things like that. And basically what happens is their baby dies in the hospital, and Ruth was near, so a court battle ensues and things like that. If you've read any of Jodi Picoult's novels before, you know she's kind of known for court battles and, you know, intensifying situations. This one's very hard-hitting to read about because you have the race factor, you have a lot of like just white supremacists, just really hard, horrible things to read about, but the audiobook was amazing. The book was amazing, made me cry. Definitely would recommend. So now I'm going to end with some of my favorite memoirs. Memoirs are the bulk of the audiobooks I've listened to. I don't know what it is about memoirs that I just cannot get enough of. I've listened to a ton of them. Maybe I'm just like a shameful celebrity lover and like want to hear all of their voices constantly all the time. But seriously, there are a lot of memoirs where they're by comedians or by actresses that are just funny, and it is just always a really fun time to listen to them. I'm a big fan of funny audiobooks because I don't know, I just like laughing and having a good time. I like reading books that are hard-hitting, but I also like reading books that will put a smile on my face, and 9 times out of 10, funny memoirs will do just that. So Mindy Kaling has 2 great books that I love listening to on audio, and I think it's just an added extra. If you get to listen to the audiobook narrated by the author, I think that's awesome. I would highly recommend doing that. But Mindy Kaling has a couple. I think she has Why Is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me and Why Not Me. Both are amazing. I love her voice. I love her humor. Definitely recommend those. Awesome. Also, of course, I have to recommend Bossy Pants by Tina Fey. Tina Fey is hilarious. I've loved Tina Fey for a long time. Will continue to love her. She needs to write a new book, honestly. Like, get to it, Tina Fey. And another one, of course, is like her sister almost, is Amy Poehler's Yes Please. Love Amy Poehler. Love, you know, her books. I always have to buy them too because I love these women so much. And another one that I really love is Lauren Graham's Talking as Fast as I Can. I do feel like this one wasn't fleshed out completely, but goodness gracious, if you know anything about me, you know that I'm obsessed with Gilmore Girls, aka obsessed with Lauren Graham. I'm also obsessed with her other show, Parenthood. So any chance I can get Lauren Graham, I'm gonna get it. This one's hilarious. If you're a Gilmore Girl or Parenthood lover, you must read this. It's like required reading. I also have listened to Drew Barrymore's Wildflowers. I'm listening right now to Tiffany Haddish's audiobook, which I really like. I've listened to a ton. I need to listen to a lot more, but I've listened to a ton of like celebrity memoirs or audio, I don't know what you call them. Another one is Sarah Bareilles' Sounds Like Me. I thought this was amazing. I love Sarah Bareilles. She's a musician, and I love listening to her stories about how she came up with songs. I think a lot of musicians have written a lot of like kind of memoirs too, so would recommend those as well. So there you have it. Those are some of my favorite audiobooks. These are not all of the audiobooks I've listened to. There have been some that I've listened to that I haven't loved. So anyway, those are some of my favorite audiobooks audiobooks of all times. Like I said, I'm not like an expert at audiobooks by any means, but you know, I just wanted to share with you what ones I love. Maybe you'll get some recommendations out of this. Maybe you'll tell me some of your favorite audiobooks. I'm always on the lookout for those because I love audiobooks and I need to listen to them more, obviously. So please leave me your favorite down below. Again, thank you so much to Scribd for sponsoring this video. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
There was a man